Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Tuesday Freight to Freedom call. We are stoked to have you here with us live, as well as those catching the replay here later on. We've got an awesome lesson for you guys because we've got a new class of students that have just joined us here in the last few days, last week, after our most recent workshop. And so we are going to really be teaching a lesson today that is for veterans who've been with us for a while, as well as those who are brand new, because we just want you to understand the full scope of what it means to be a freight broker, what that journey looks like. And so today's lesson is just called the Broker Blueprint. That's a mouthful. The Freight Broker Blueprint, from first phone call to your first paycheck. So I'm stoked to jump into today's lesson. But before we do that, we've got a video that Zane picked out here for us. And so Zane, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Well, today's video is from Patrick Bet-David. I know we've listened to him before on these calls, but anytime we have a new class, I always kind of like to talk about the concept of patience, because I think that's one of the biggest differentiators between an employee mindset versus an entrepreneur mindset. And I think a lot of times when you're making that transition from being solely an employee to now starting your own online business, a lot of times people think that it's the system or the process that doesn't work, but Drew has proven that this process works. I've proven that this process works. Dan has proven that this process works. Mariah has proven that this process works. Caleb, Anise, Enrique, and so on, as well as 80,000 other freight brokers in the industry that haven't even gone through our program. So people make money as a freight broker. The difference between the people who make a lot of money as a freight broker and do it as an entrepreneur versus those who, just kind of treat this like a hobby and eventually fizzle out is simply a shift in mindset. And I think a lot of that comes down to patience and the way that you think about your business. So with that said, Drew, I'll turn it over to you for the video and I'll say a few things at the end here.
Awesome. Great lead in. Let's do it, y'all. Should be able to see my screen. If you guys can hear the sound, drop a one in the chat. If you
I want you
can't,
to think
drop a
about the
two.
most discouraging event that took place in your life. It could be you were expecting to marry a girl or a guy. Everything was going good. Boom! One day you get that text message saying, I don't think this is going to work out. And she breaks up with you. He breaks up with you. You're like, wait a minute. What are you talking about? We just had a great date last week. We just talked about life together 10, 20, 30 years from now. Very confused. Maybe you're working for a boss of yours and he tells you if you do X, Y, Z, you hit these numbers, you're going to get a promotion. You hit all those numbers and it comes time for a promotion. He gives a promotion to Johnny, not to you. You're discouraged. Maybe it's you got great ideas, but no one's listening to you. Maybe you're sitting there saying, man, I've been financially in the same exact situation for 2, 3 years. What the hell do I need to do? It's discouraging, right? I will tell you from personal experience, the most discouraging times were when you're putting effort and you're not seeing progress or results. This can psychologically mess with you to not believe that enough effort is going to produce progress. And for the rest of your life, you're just going to be like, well, even if I give my best, nothing's going to happen. Even if I love this person, nothing's going to happen. Even if I give my best year savings, nothing's going to happen. So for this to work for my head, my brain, I had to come up with levels for me to understand and manage expectation and a level of patience I need to have. And I created 7 timelines for myself. Here's what the timelines are. In order to see any glimpses of change, it takes about 21 days, right? The second one is 90 days. Anything that I did to my business, a new idea I implemented, I said, here's what we're going to start doing every week on the such and such day. I'm like, okay, first week, no results. Second week, no results. Third week, no results. Fourth week, no results. Fifth week, a little bit of results. Sixth week, a little bit of results. 7th week, a little bit of results. It's not really working. Let me drop it. 90 days. That's only 7 weeks. 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10, 11, 12, 13th week, bam! Oh, this works. I'm glad I stuck with it for 90 days. So far we have what? 21 days, 90 days, then it's 12 months, then it's 36 months, then it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Here's how you got to look at it. So again, 21, 90, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The bigger the change you want to make, the longer it takes, okay? So if your change is a generational type of a change with a mindset and the way of thinking, your family's been known as the poor, broke family, you want to make a real massive change, it's probably going to take 10 to 20 years. Maybe your generation is full of entitled complainers. You're like, I'm sick and tired of me being linked to my generation and being complainers. I want to do something about it. Maybe you're going to be able to make a change, but maybe it's a 10 to 20 year type of a change. But your body, you want to make some kind of a change? Maybe 21 or 90 days. So what happens now if you're saying, well, Pat, I want to make some major changes in my life. I want to do something big. Great. then that major change is going to require you longer term. But here's the other part. So far you got the timeline to manage expectations so you don't get discouraged, right? Now here's the other part. This doesn't mean 21 days later or 90 days later, you're going to automatically see results. No. Your level of urgency and effort will dictate the level of changes you'll see. So urgency, effort, and patience. 21 days, some people will say, I'll be patient for 21 days, but I don't know about 90 days. Well, that's your problem. I'll be patient for 90 days. I'll give this real estate thing a shot for 90 days, but I don't know about a year, Pat. I don't think I'm going to do that. Well, that's your problem. Well, I'll give this thing a shot here. I see things going with this company, and I think it's going to work. I'll give it 1 year, but I don't know about 3 years. Well, then that's your problem. Well, I'll give this thing 3 years, but 3 years, I swear if I don't get to this, well, then it's my 5 year. I'm not giving it 5 years. Everything is about patience, urgency, effort. One of those three is lacking. If one of those three lacks, you're not going to see changes. If you're not patient, you're definitely not going to witness the change. So I started investing money when I was in the Army. One of my buddies is like, Pat, start putting aside $25 a week. I said, what the hell is $25 a week? He says, it's $25 a week. Just start doing it. I said, I'm not doing it. So he starts putting $25 a week. Year goes by, 2 years goes by, 3 years, Army's done with. He went from 25 a week to 50 a week to 75 a week to like 100 a week, right? 3 years later, he shows me his account. He says, here's how much money I got. Shows me his account. He's got like $15,000, $18,000. I said, you got $18,000? You guys got to realize $18,000 is a lot of money at 21 years old. He said, how much you have in your account? I said, dude, what are you talking about? What? The last 2 bottles of tequila, that's how much money I had. That's my savings account, what I had. I had nothing when I got out of the Army. Literally zero. 3 years later, he had $15,000. I said, listen, patience, effort, urgency equals results. So in one of these areas, I wasn't patient. All I thought about is $25 a week. What the hell is $25 a week? $25 a week increasing 3 years later is $15,000, $18,000. Guy buys a Mickey Mantle rookie card in 1998 for $104,000. They said this guy lost his mind. He's the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks. He buys it for $104,000. People said, you paid $104,000 for Mickey Mantle PSA 10 rookie card? Yes. You know what that card is worth today? $18 million. He kept it for 23 years. 23 years, the card went from $100,000 to $18 million. Patience. He had the effort to have the money to buy it, and he put the effort into it, right? So again, you either have a patient issue, you have an effort issue, or you have an urgency issue. Your urgency issue is, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next week, I'll start next month. That's not going to happen. Then you don't have the formula in place. You either don't put the real effort in, or you don't have the patience. But if you got all three, and you know the 7 timelines, 21, 90, 1, 3, 5, 10, 20, you're going to be all right long term. So having said that, if you got value from this message here, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you've not seen the video, I got a video I want to recommend to you. It's 12 mistakes I made my first year as an entrepreneur. If you've never seen that before, click over here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
All right, great video there by PBD. I know you guys, who have been in the program for a while have heard me say this before, so it's probably pretty redundant for you guys. But for those of you who are new, who are joining us, treat this business like college. It's amazing to me how many people are willing to give college the old college try, 4 years, when I think that is a significantly worser investment of your time and effort and energy compared to starting an online business. For example, the person going and getting a business degree could just learn way more about business trying to start a business over 4 years as opposed to going to college for 4 years. So with that being the case, treat this business like college. Be realistic about a business. Unless you're coming into this business with an Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos skill set, this is probably going to take you a little bit longer than you think, and maybe there may be a little bit of a learning curve to it. But be realistic about business in that 90% of small businesses are out of business within the first 5 years. So if you're coming into this and expecting to make $100,000 in your first 30 days, I'm here to tell you that that was something that was marketed to you by internet marketers, and that's not a real thing, especially if you're not somebody who's stepping into this with an Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos skill set, which none of us are. So with that being the case, treat this, like I said, treat it like college. If you can get up to even just $1,000 a month, working an extra 5 to 10 hours a week, after your first year, and you can double that by your second year, in comparison to college, your sophomore year, and you can double that to 4,000 a month by your third year, your junior year, and you can double that to 8,000 a month by, your senior year, end of 4 years. You're already making $96,000, $100,000 a year after 4 years. When how much is the average college student making after 4 years of college? Nothing. And most of them are going back and working in their parents' basement and working the same job they did in high school while they shop for a big boy or big girl job. So, treat this investment like college, also a significantly less investment than, paying 6 figures for a college degree like most people are paying nowadays. Treat this like college and it will pay you like a business. So have that realistic expectation, have patience in your business. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, as bad as you want it to for most of us. But if you put in the effort, you sprinkle in the effort and energy over time, week by week, and stay consistent with it, it is going to grow and you are going to be able to build your business sustainably over time. But have those realistic expectations coming into this, because I know a lot of times people come in and they expect to be making $10,000 a month after 30 days in the program. And I'm here to tell you again, that is just something that you have been marketed by internet marketers throughout the years. That's a very unrealistic expectations that people are setting in order to get you to buy their program. But realistically, as an entrepreneur, again, you got to think 90% of small businesses are out of business within the first 5 years. What separates that remaining 10% is having the patience to stick it out long enough to see the results. And most people just don't have the patience for that. And that's where most people fail in entrepreneurship. It's not the process, it's not the system, it's not the strategy. Again, many people across many industries have proven that the strategy or the process or the skill set works. You just have to be consistent with it. So with that said, Drew, I'll turn it over to you for today's lesson.
Yeah, I'm actually looking up a stat for you guys real quick. Because we're talking about businesses, the large majority fail, within their first, you know, 2, 3 years. After 5 years, a very, very small percentage are still operating. But one thing I will point out is the businesses that are successful after 5 years are typically the businesses that are a franchise model. 85% of franchises are still seeing success after their fifth year in business. And so, why is that? The main reason is because nobody had to figure things out on their own. As I talked about on our workshop last Tuesday, if you're to go start a McDonald's franchise, you don't need to learn how to make burgers. You don't need to figure out your own suppliers. You don't need to figure out where to purchase your swivelly chairs from. You are literally getting it all through the McDonald's supplier because everything is cookie cutter. Everything is copy and paste. And that is exactly what we do here with Freight to Freedom. It is a copy paste business model of what built, took me 5+ years to build on my own to get it to the point of 90% automation. And so you guys get to literally take exactly what works, leave what doesn't, and ultimately see that type of success by just following a simple system. So the bottom line is the system is the key here. You don't have to go figure out anything on your own. If you just stick to the roadmap, follow exactly what we teach you and implement and actually put in the work, you will see results, period. We have not had a single student go through our roadmap and not see success by just following exactly what to do on week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, right? We don't want you guessing what you should be working on next. You should know exactly what to work on next. And then we also built out an AI assistant for you, the Freight to Freedom AI assistant, so that if you're like, well, hey, I know I need to get something done today. I'm just stuck. I don't know what to work on. Great. Go talk to the AI assistant. It has all 20 years, 18+ years of experience that I have in this industry coded into it. So it's basically my brain downloaded into an AI assistant so that you can say, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's the amount of time I have today, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. What is the number one thing I should be working on inside of my business? It's going to ask you a couple questions and then say, great, here is your roadmap. Here's your game plan. So once again, you can just stick to the system, follow it until success. So that is what we're going to be talking about here in a little bit more depth today. And that is, once again, the Freight Broker Blueprint. So this is to take you from your very first phone call to your first paycheck inside of your business. And so really today's lesson, the purpose of it is to help all of you who are here live as well as those watching the replay later understand the entire freight brokerage process from start to finish. That way you guys can really see and understand how everything connects together. I want you guys to be able to identify where you currently are in your journey. Some of you guys are brand new. Some of you guys have been here for a while, but you'll be able to figure out exactly where you're at along that journey. And then also build confidence by understanding the big picture of being a freight broker, of following that system. And then finally, I want to help you guys realize that successful brokerages are built one load at a time. That's it. That's all we're focused on, just that next load. So let's go ahead and dive in. My first point of the day is number one, do not build without a blueprint. Don't build without a system. I'll start with this, with a question for you guys. If someone handed you a pile of lumber, some nails, a hammer, and said, "Hey, go build me a house," how many of you would actually feel confident going and building a house with those type of instructions? I'm going to guess probably none, right? I definitely wouldn't. I've built things before, but if that's all I had, that wouldn't be enough to really get me started, right? I could build a doghouse. All right, hey, doghouse it is. But we couldn't go build a full-blown house, not because we couldn't eventually figure it out on our own, but because we didn't have the blueprint for the home, right? We don't even know what type of house we're supposed to build. And so that is exactly how most new freight brokers feel in the beginning, right? They're going to be learning different skills like prospecting, working with carriers, quoting rates, understanding load boards, leveraging the customer relationship manager. And yes, it can feel overwhelming sometimes because you might not have seen how all of those pieces fit together. And so today, I just want to zoom out a little bit. And instead of just focusing on one skill, we will have lessons that focus on each one of those skills as you continue to grow in your journey here. But we're going to actually look at the entire blueprint of how a freight broker goes from making one simple phone call to actually getting paid and making money inside of their brokerage. And then once you understand the blueprint, that is really when everything starts to make complete sense. Easy enough, right? Confusion in this business completely disappears once you can see the whole blueprint. So if you are new to this industry, whether it's brand new or maybe you have maybe a few months of experience, maybe a year of experience, once again, any sort of final confusion you have will disappear once you understand the full blueprint. So let's jump into point number two. And I'm actually going to try to draw this out on the screen. I'm going to see if I can do this for you guys. The best way I know how to do it is going to be going to Canva, which I thought I had open. I think I accidentally closed it. Let's just go over here. Let's go create. Let's just say whiteboard. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen over here, guys, so you guys can follow along. I do recommend that you go ahead and write. If you guys are taking notes, obviously I always recommend take notes, something you can always address later. But if you're taking notes, go ahead and write this down because we will be leveraging this later on in the call. So I'm going to go and share my screen here. You guys should be able to see it now. And I'm just going to walk you through the simple process, okay? And we're just going to start right here. Let's go ahead and drag this over here. And we're just going to start with in the very beginning. All right, let's see here. I did my best with a doghouse. Looked more like a chicken coop, but had big dogs. All right. Good stuff. All right, so here's where we're going to start. Very first thing we're going to do in this business is we have to find a prospect. Okay? Simple as that. We've got to find the right type of people, right companies to talk to. We got a latecomer here. Let me let him in. Now let's go ahead and do this. Let's see. I've got not text, tools, project, apps. Elements. Here we go. And let's just go with this simple arrow right here. How about that? And we'll just keep it all the same color. Boom shakalaka. And we're going to shrink this thing down like this. Dink. All right. And you know what? I take that back. Let's do this across the screen here. Perfect. 90 degrees. All right. That's step number one. After we find a prospect, what we're going to do next is start a conversation. I'm gonna have to move this around a little bit as we keep going here. But now we've got our elements we can pretty much copy and paste on over. After we have a conversation, the next step is we need to build trust. Okay? Build trust / relationship. Is this readable, you guys? Can you guys see everything all right on the screen? I know it might be small for some of y'all, especially if you're watching from your phone, but should come through a-okay. So those are our first three steps. We're going to find the right prospect. We teach you exactly how to find those type of companies, and we also have our own, network database that we can find the ideal prospects with. Then we're going to go ahead and just talk to them, start a conversation, have a good conversation, and then start to build trust, build the relationship. Once you start building a relationship with them, the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to, learn their freight. That's it. All right. What type of freight do you ship? How does that work? How can I assist? Right? Let's move that back. There we go. After we learn their freight, next thing we're going to do is earn the opportunity. I have this written out. If you guys are taking notes, earn the opportunity to quote, but I'm going to run out of space. So we're just going to say earn the opportunity. Okay. We have this all built out inside of the CRM for you guys, inside of the pipeline. And so this is basically the pipeline start to finish. Once we earn the opportunity, the next thing we are going to focus on is we are going to find the right carrier. So they say, hey, Jeff, Mariah, Caleb, Dan, Greg, Jacob, whoever they're talking to, that sounds like a good rate. Appreciate, and you're going to say, thanks for giving me the opportunity to quote, right? When they say that looks like a good rate, when can you get a driver in here? Right? We're never going to overpromise. We're going to always underpromise and then always overdeliver. And I always tell people, hey, 24 hours. 24 hours is more than enough time. If you need them in this afternoon, I'll do my best to get them in this afternoon. But most cases, the client is going to say, that's no problem. Pick up anytime tomorrow by 4 p.m. Works just fine for us. Awesome. That's what we like to hear. Perfect. So now we're going to find the right carrier. After we find the right carrier, we are going to dispatch the carrier. I'm just going to say dispatch the load. Okay? Just like that. Boom. There we go. It's not perfectly centered, but that's okay. I'm not going to let my OCD get the better of me today. After we dispatch the load, we're telling the carrier, hey, we've got a pickup out here in Atlanta, Georgia. It's got to go to Denver, Colorado. Here's the pickup address. Here's the name of the contact if you need to call them. And here's the delivery information. We're dispatching the carrier with all the pertinent information they need. You're going to be picking up 4 pallets. It's about 8,000 pounds. And here's the dimensions. Here's how much of the truck, how much space in the truck that we're going to need to move this load. Right? So we've dispatched the carrier. We've dispatched the load. After that, it gets picked up. So what are we going to do to keep our client happy? We are going to track the shipment from start to finish. Easy enough. Boom. Just like that. Go and track that shipment. From there, the next thing we're going to be focusing on, let's get it all nice and lined up. Good enough. We're going to focus on making sure it gets delivered. So we're going to make sure that we're going to track the delivery start to finish. Make sure everything delivers in good timing, right? Why? Because when your clients see that you're on top of the load and you're providing them updates before they ever ask you for it, well, that is a great way to build a relationship, because the ultimate end goal we want is for them to know you, to like you as a broker and as a friend, and then ultimately trust you with their freight. If we can do those three things, you will have a customer that ships with you for years, which means every time they ship, you get paid. This is the residual aspect of the business, right? After that, here's where we go. We are going to move on to the next step, which is invoice the customer. So we've already paid the carrier. And now, thankfully, right, once again, we have a full team of individuals, staff, partners that essentially will handle all of the invoicing for you. So you just want to make sure that the client gets the invoice so they can get it paid, right? Once the client receives the invoice, if they have any questions, great, chat with them about it, etc. But after they get that, as long as everything aligns, they're like, hey, you quoted us $864. We're going to pay $864. Sounds good. So what do we need them to do? We need them to pay the invoice, which means you get paid. All right. Is this all making sense so far? If so, drop a one in the chat, y'all. Make sure you guys are following along. Boom. One. Perfect. Thank you, Jeff. And then what is our final step? Now that we've gone through all of the entire process, all we got to do next is repeat the process. That's it. That is the freight broker system, the freight broker blueprint in a nutshell, right there. Boom. Shipment tracker is a good one. Yes, that is a good one. Obviously, Mariah. But obviously, as soon as the shipment gets booked, you'll want to enter it into your shipment tracker. But this is just more, 30,000 foot view. But this right here, right? As long as you guys can still see my screen, this is the entire business model. And every successful broker that you will ever meet, they just simply repeat this cycle over and over and over again. Our previous Tuesday training, have obviously covered a lot of these different parts of the process already, right? We'll go through them multiple times. We go in more depth just so that you understand every process like the back of your hand. We're going to teach you how to find a prospect, not just in the training, but we also teach on these Tuesday calls. We're going to teach you how to sound like a broker so that you can have good conversations. We're going to teach you exactly how to build trust with those clients and start earning their business, and really just follow the daily operating system so that you don't have to create your own at random, right? So the lessons we teach you aren't random. They are just small little pieces of the overall blueprint. And once again, successful freight brokerages aren't built by just one huge win, like one big, massive client. Are those great when they happen? Yeah, absolutely. One big client can double your business overnight. But once again, successful brokerages aren't typically built with that one customer. They're built by repeating a proven process. And that's exactly what it looks like. So if you're not taking notes, feel free to take a screenshot of this, because once again, we will be diving it into a little bit more here. But let's just go ahead and break down each step. Okay. Step one, we got to find a prospect, right? Find the right type of companies that are shipping freight, that have volume, that they're willing to allow you to quote. The right type of shipper matters. And what I mean by that is you don't want to just go chase anyone. Even if you had a good conversation with them, if they ship 2 times a year, I'm sorry, that is just not worth your time to continue following up with them, right? We want to find companies that are shipping freight consistently, because the reality is you don't need 500 customers to make $100,000 a year. You just need a handful, sometimes as little as 4, 5, 6 clients to make a full-time income in this business, right? Now, obviously, in the beginning, you're going to have shippers of all sizes, clients of all sizes, clients that do ship twice a month, 2 times a week, 2 times a day. And then ultimately, we want to find clients that are shipping 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day, right? And in the beginning, you're learning. So we're going to take everything that we can get, right? We're not, once you get to the point where you are starting to have enough volume that you can be choosy with your customers, that is when we're probably going to let, Bob go, who only ships, twice a month and is just a crotchety old man who is just always upset no matter what happens, right? Once you get to that level where you're making 10, 15, $20,000 a month, you have the ability to let clients go that aren't serving you anymore, that are not worth your time, not worth the investment, right? But that really just comes down, that's your first step. Find the right type of prospects. Step two is where we go ahead and start the conversation. This right here is where confidence matters. Not perfection, right? You don't have to sound perfect on the phone, but just be confident. And once again, we've got our AI assistant. So you can practice mock phone calls with the AI assistant even before you ever pick up the phone to make your first dial. So once again, the goal is not to close on that first conversation. The goal is just to start it. Got to start somewhere. You will have one call closes. You will have companies, if you make enough calls, that will say, you know what? I got something on my dock right now. The carrier quote that came back is crazy expensive. Can you quote it for me? And if it looks good, I'll send it with you. You got it. Boom. Those will happen. But ultimately, that first conversation, we just want to get it started, get the ball rolling. Step three, let's go ahead. And this is where we start building trust, right? Building the relationship. And trust, as we talked about in the past, trust comes from being someone who follows through by responding quickly when your client needs something, whether it's you or your virtual assistant, by asking really good questions to dive deeper into their business. And on top of that, just being honest. You know what? Hey, this is not something I've ever done before. I do believe we can do it, but let me look into this and I'll get back with you. I just want to make sure that I give you the right information. Be honest, right? Trust does not come from saying, oh, yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years, right? Nobody cares how long you've been in business. They just care about you being able to build a relationship with them and just being real, period, right? This is a relationship-driven business. Those relationships are built through conversations, through overcoming problems when they arise, and ultimately, responding when they need you. A lot of clients I've picked up over the years because they send something to their broker, they don't hear back for hours, sometimes 2 or 3 days. By then, they're like, okay, we already had to give this to somebody else. If you can respond quick, you will earn a lot more freight, period. Now let's move on to our fourth step here. Learn their freight, right? We want to ask, okay, well, what exactly do you guys ship? Okay, where do you normally ship from? Do you ship from your warehouse? Do you ship into your warehouse? Where are these typically moving? Okay, how often? How often are you moving these shipments? Oh, okay, you ship about 3, 4 times a week. Great. And do you guys normally ship that? What type of equipment? That's the next question. Do you normally ship that on a flatbed or do you like to ship it in a dry van so it's covered? Yeah, we like to ship it in a dry van because it'll fit just fine. Great. And what type of challenges have you come across in the past that have just been a pain in the butt for you that you would like to avoid at all costs, right? You can't solve problems that you don't understand. And that is the point of learning their freight and asking the right questions. Step number 5, earn the quote or earn the opportunity. This is the goal of every prospecting conversation that you're going to have, right? Not to close them right there on the call, not to beg them for freight, but simply just ask them, what do you guys have going out that I can quote for you? Or can I quote your next shipment and see how we look? Because one quote can become one load, and then one load becomes one customer, and then one customer can become reoccurring business that you get paid on week after week, month after month, year after year. That's what we're looking for here. Step number 6, find the right carrier. All right. The lowest price is not always going to be the best. And you can let your client know that too. It's like, hey, yeah, here's our 3 cheapest, here's our 3 fastest. However, the first 2 cheapest aren't my favorite carriers. I would recommend spending an extra 20, $30 to go with the next cheapest carrier because they're going to, treat you a lot better, right? The lowest price is not always the best. Reliable carriers build reliable freight brokerages. So you'll need to learn who those carriers are. And obviously we teach you that every step of the way, but you want to be able to come off as someone who knows the right carrier for the right job. If they're saying, hey, this has to deliver by Friday, we've got to get it there. We're definitely not going to recommend the cheapo guy that might get it there in 3 days, might get it there in 7 days. We're going to recommend the carrier that has guaranteed 3-day service that will guarantee it by 12 p.m. on Friday. Step number 7, this is where we're going to dispatch the load, right? So when we dispatch the load to the carrier, we just need clear communication, make sure the paperwork is correct, and then set the right expectations with the carrier as well as with your client. A smooth dispatch will always prevent problems later. So make sure you got the right information from the get-go. Step 8, this is where we're going to track the shipment, right? After the shipment gets booked, don't disappear. You want to go ahead and communicate proactively, start to finish, because customers love updates. If you guys think about this, right? Let's just say you purchase something online after Black Friday. You're really excited for it to show up, but obviously it's the holidays, things are a little delayed. So, you go online and you check the tracking. Oh, where's it at? Okay, it's in Ohio. All right, now it's in Tennessee. Now it's in Missouri, right? You're tracking this thing start to finish. But your carriers who can do the same thing, of course, right? But if you provide those updates for them, it saves them a step from having to go try to track and trace this on their own. Once again, customers love updates, and problems become manageable when they're communicated early. So if there's something that happens in transit, it's much better for you to bring that to your client than for your client to say, hey, this was supposed to deliver on Friday. It never showed up, right? By then, we're kind of coming late to the party, and we've got to figure out a solution to keep them happy afterwards, right? And so let's move on to step 9. Let's see here. Who covers the insurance on the load during the paperwork process? No, that's great. Since we're on that step, Jeff, when it comes to insurance, carriers carry their own liability coverage when it comes to insurance. Most carriers will cover somewhere between $10 to $25 per pound in liability coverage. However, if it's something used, right, a used engine, a used machine, so on and so forth, the carrier is only going to cover something used at 10 cents per pound. So we always want to offer insurance to the clients. It's a way for you to actually make more profit on your load, but also it is a service that is a must if somebody's shipping that is used, because they will not get anywhere near what that freight is valued at if they don't get third-party insurance. So great question. Once again, step 9, once the shipment's delivered or as you're tracking the delivery, right? So we're tracking it, the freight delivered safely, boom, on time, without any surprises. This right here is where trust compounds, because the freight moved the way that you said it would, and your clients are like, wow, this is awesome, right? There's a lot of people involved in the logistics process. There's a lot of potential things that could go wrong. So this is why your first few dozen, 2 dozen shipments for your clients, you want to stay on top of them as much as possible so that you can make sure everything runs as smoothly as it can. Okay. Now, step 10, invoice, right? Invoice and get paid. So this is where, if you don't have an invoice sent out to your client, they got nothing to pay, right? Which means you're not getting paid. And operations matter massively. So this is where all of your hard work turns into revenue. So we want to make sure that your client actually has the invoice, right? And so we're going to check that a week or 2 after the shipment's delivered, make sure they have everything, because we want to make it easy on them to pay. We don't want them saying 3 months later, hey, I never got an invoice for that shipment, right? The way we're going to do that is we're going to make sure that the details in the system, whether it be their billing address, their billing contact, etc., is the right information, so that when the invoice gets sent out from our third-party billing partner, boom, it goes directly to the right spot, just like that. Cool. Every shipment, right? And then obviously from there, after you get paid, you just repeat that process over and over again. Every shipment is a cycle. And every cycle builds your business. And pretty soon, you won't even have to think about this cycle at all. This blueprint that you will follow will just happen subconsciously behind the scenes. It will become second nature. You won't have to think about what the next step is, right? And a lot of these we've automated for you, which is why you guys need to stick to the system. Don't reinvent the wheel, because we are going to save you so much time to expedite this process, which means you get paid faster. And that's important, especially as a new business owner, okay? So let me move on to one of my final points here. And I'll just ask you, if you had to answer honestly, which step are you stuck on right now? Whether you are brand new or whether you've been here for weeks, months, maybe even a couple of years, what step are you currently stuck on? Is it the finding prospects step? Is it making calls, getting quotes, finding carriers or, just actually processing the loans? Or are you getting stuck with getting customers to come back, right? That's a huge one too. Because after we go through the process, well, now it's time to follow up and see what the next load is, right? Follow up is huge. So I just ask you guys that. If you're taking notes, boom. All right. Thank you, Greg. Finding the prospects. You are brand new. And so, yeah, right now, all the above. Absolutely. But we're just going to focus on one step at a time. And as you go through the initial education, you're going to learn exactly how to find the right prospects. So, yeah. And then obviously, if you have questions, ask in our group chat and we'll get you taken care of. But the good news is, once again, you don't have to master every single one of these steps today. You only have to master the next step, period. So, as you can imagine, progress happens one step at a time. Simple as that. Mariah says, need to work on building the relationships more, but I quit my job last night, so I should have more time to do that just now. All right. Congrats, Mariah. Good for you. Mariah's been coming out of the gate like a freaking wildcat, just coming out, popping off shippers left and right. And so now that you've got more time, I just expect your efforts to compound. So let's get it. And so to finally close things out, right? I do have a quick challenge for you guys. I always like to give you a challenge so you guys can implement this ASAP. So I encourage you guys, if you're taking notes or if you're not, take out a sheet of paper. Once again, as I mentioned earlier, draw out the freight broker blueprint that you guys see on screen here. Step 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth, right? Left to right, up to down, just like that. And then ask yourself, what is one action that I can take this week to move myself in my business to the next step and get proficient at that step? The goal is not to, try to master the entire blueprint right now. You just need to master your next move, like I was telling Greg just a moment ago. Okay. So when most people hear about freight brokering, it can seem like, there's 100 different skills that you're going to need to figure out or learn, right? But today, I hope you guys see something completely different because it is really just one simple process that you repeat over and over consistently. And every successful freight broker that you will meet started exactly where you are right now. They just found one prospect. They made one phone call, quoted that one load, eventually booked that one shipment, followed the process, and got paid. And from there, once they did it the first time, they did it again. And then they did it again. And that right there is how multi-million-dollar freight brokerage businesses are built, period. Freedom in itself isn't built in one giant leap. Is once again built from one call, one customer, one load, and one paycheck at a time. So just follow the system, stay plugged in, raise your hand to ask questions when you need it, and once again, repeat the process. That's it. Cool. I'm going to stop screen sharing now. Here we go. But yeah, hopefully you guys got some value out of that lesson. I wasn't even paying attention to the time, but we were doing great on time. So we got some time to answer some questions if you guys have any. If so, feel free to unmute or you can drop it in the chat. Would love to get them answered, especially if you're brand new and you're still kind of figuring some of this stuff out. But we got Mr. Dan.
Just want to say that I've been using the GPT that you created, the AI, and it's even for simple, things where I used to reply on an email and stuff like that. I will go in and say, okay, here's what I got to do, and it's just it's a wonderful thing.
Heck
So
yeah.
It's time well spent learning. I ask it, I have discussions with it and things, so it answers all of my questions, and especially like an email, instead of saying, well, hi, I'm a freight broker, here I am, you shipped yada yada yada. It actually sounds like it's much better, leads opening questions and all that sort of stuff to try to engage them and everything. It's fantastic. So
heck yeah, man.
That's my 2 cents worth.
Yep. There's only so much brain power in a day. And so if you can offload some of that to the AI assistant, then you'll just be able to get things moving faster. Sometimes it is, even if you had a good conversation with somebody, it's tough to come up with exactly what to say in an email without sounding super salesy or like overly excited about the opportunity. And so the AI assistant just takes all of that weight off of your shoulders. You just tell them how the conversation went. You can literally just copy and paste your notes from the CRM and say, "Hey, here's the conversation I just had with this person." Boom. Can you write me an email to follow up? To follow up with them because I told them I'd send my contact information over, just like that. Easy enough. It'll spit it all out for you. You don't have to think about it. From there, you can copy paste, send it off, and then it is your job, right? Because the AI can't do this for you. It is your job to just follow up. That's it. You had a good conversation, stay in front of them. You want to become the very first person that they think about when they're ready to get a quote, when they're ready to switch providers, when their current freight company that they're working with misses their pickup for the third day in a row. You want them to be like, "Oh, I need to reach out to Dan. Dan, we had a great conversation 2 weeks ago. He's emailed me a couple times. I'm just sick and tired of dealing with this carrier. Let's see what he can get in here for us for pickup today." All right, I've got another one in the chat, Mr. Greg. As you make prospect calls and questions come up, is the WhatsApp monitored? Should a quick answer be needed for the potential client? Yes. So, in a lot of cases, you will already know the answers to those questions as you're going through the training. But that is exactly what the WhatsApp chat is for, right? We have other programs where you go through it on your own. There's not really a ton of support. It's basically you're just learning at your own pace. But since you're obviously in our program, right, working with us directly, that's exactly what the chat is for. You need something, drop it in the chat. Myself, one of the other coaches, will get back with you ASAP. And then if it's not urgent, if it doesn't need to be answered really quickly, then my recommendation is go ahead and ask your question inside of the community because that allows me to respond with a more lengthy answer. Sometimes I'll do a screen share as well, just to kind of walk through things in more detail. And it also allows other students that, launched with your class, or maybe they have the same type of question, allows us to get that question answered in front of everybody and everybody can learn at the same time. So leverage both and we'll make the most out of it. Great. All right. And when does the AI assistant come into play? Great question. So the AI assistant is going to come into play as you go through the launch course. So you'll see on the roadmap, week 1, week 2, week 3. Once you get to the launch week, well, I think it's week number 3, could be 4. I don't have it up in front of me, but week number 3 or 4, it'll have you go through the launch course. And that's where basically kind of everything we talked about here today, it kind of puts it all together. And it says, hey, step 1, here's what you need to do. Step 2, step 3. And then that's where you get introduced to the AI assistant. And you can start asking it questions if there's anything where you're like, okay, I understand how these two things come together, but how do I get to step number 3? Ask it a quick question, boom, it'll spit it out, especially when it comes to, once again, since you're going to be on the phone, talking to businesses, talking to prospects. It's a great place to practice having those conversations so that you can have good confidence when you pick up the phone and actually talk to a real person. You got it, man. Absolutely. Thank you for the questions. Well, perfect. That's where we're going to call it, y'all. Thank you guys for being here with us live, as well as those catching the replay. We will be back on Thursday. If you're brand new, I would still recommend you come, even though we won't be making calls for you quite yet. You're not quite there. But what we do every Thursday is we actually make live calls for your prospects. All we do is once you go through the program, you'll know exactly what type of prospects to find. Leveraging the database or leveraging our own system that we use. Bring us the prospects, myself, Zane. We will actually make these calls on your behalf. If we happen to land a client there, a quoting opportunity, great. That is yours. And we do that so that you can hear exactly what we say, so that you know that we're not doing anything special. We're literally asking the same 3 to 5 questions over and over and over again to different prospects to identify if they are worth somebody, if they are worth approaching again and staying in contact with and following up. So bring us those opportunities. We will smile and dial on your behalf. And, over the last few years, we've landed dozens and dozens of new shippers that are still shipping with students today. And so, yeah, don't miss those calls if you can avoid it. We'd love to make the calls for you. And if there's anything you need in the meantime, drop it in the Facebook group. If it's urgent, drop it in the WhatsApp chat, and we will let you guys get back to it. We'll see you here on Thursday. Till then, y'all take care and have a great rest of your week. Adios.